Hello, everyone. Thanks again for the opportunity to share my work and my obsession. I'm a sculptor based in Galway. I think Galway is well represented tonight. Um, I'm what you might call an accidental artist. I didn't mean to do it. I fell into a bowl of paper clips and little people started to appear, and then I was hooked. So I just kept making them. And as if the obsession with paper clips weren't enough, I found reels of wire, and soon they started to get bigger and bigger and more complex. The trapeze one there is, I think it's 3.5 meters wide. What's that in American? It's 9, 10 feet wide, thereabouts. The ones over this side, they're only the short ones, about 12, 14 inches tall. So in the beginning, I predominantly explored the figurative form. The piece on the right there is called The Messenger, and it seemed like that kind of theme threaded through my work for a few years. The paper clips thing, by the way, was 20 years ago, so it's been a while. I actually wanted to put paper together the other day, and I didn't have a paper clip, so I had to make one out of wire. Full circle. Anyway, my first public showing was in Harvey Milk's old camera shop in the Castro in San Francisco, which is quite apt considering it's Pride Month this month. So down at the bottom there, you can see that's probably one of the first trees I made, but it was predominantly figures and movement, capturing movement in single snapshots. Due to family commitments, I moved back to Ireland in 2008, and since then I've had some shows locally and nationally. And I still return to the human form and myth and mysticism I'm fascinated with. This is called The Fall of Icarus. I made a few different versions, but that one has about a 7-foot wingspan. This is another based on a winged man, and was called The Harbinger. And it's actually pictured there on the top of the hill in Clare overlooking Galway. But trees, I think I'm probably most known for trees because I love making them. There's something about the process of making them that I find very meditative. The ones there on the wood, that's Irish bog oak. I use copper, but I predominantly use dark annealed steel wire. This one over the other side is rose quartz and jade on bog oak. They're not always on wood. This is stainless steel. And again, there's something almost hypnotic about the process of making them. I think its repetitive nature makes it that way. I did a series called The Bog Meets the Baltic. Again, that's Irish bog oak. And I picked up the amber when I was on a trip through Eastern Europe in December a few years ago. And it just fascinates me that bog oak was buried for about 7,500 years, but the amber itself used to be pulsing through a tree around 2 million years ago. So the idea of bringing it back into the form of a tree was one I couldn't let pass by. Again, bog oak features heavily in my work. That piece there, again, about 7,500 years old. So Stone Age man was knocking about the place looking for dinner, and that was a tree that maybe he sat under. And just to give you an idea of the scale, that's my mate Mike standing next to it. It's 11.5 feet tall. That piece is available if anyone wants it. Shipping is a little extra, as I have to deliver it and install it. It's not something you can take out of the box and plop right down. And this one is obviously a wall hung piece backlit with LED. It's on a piece of yellow birch. Again, that one's about 9 feet long, and it's made of dark annealed steel wire and sits off the wall a little bit. It's quite an attention getter in a room. As I said, I love making trees. Usually before I start a long session in the studio, I make a small tree to kind of like a warm up, and that developed into a product called the Conway Hawthorne tree, and it comes in a presentation box. I actually developed this particular version of this for QVC a couple of years ago, and I developed a way of making it so that I could replicate the form without any two being the same, but without any two being too dissimilar. So it was a thin line to tread. Anyway, they're available on the Crafters of Ireland website, or you can get in touch through any of the other social media. I'm fascinated. I still keep going back to human form, but now I've started to explore life-size figures with empty space inside. So it's this play on the idea of seemingly solid objects. What mystics from all cultures have been telling us for years, science is now coming around and acknowledging that we're not these masses of solid stuff. We're more fluid and connected to the world around us. Anyway, this is an exploration called that. And the whole series is called Seemingly Solid Things. And this particular one was called The Observer and the Observed, and was taken as a literal connection of the observer and the observed, which was in a talk by Krishnamurti years ago. And it kind of stuck in my head, so I did that. Oh, by the way, that is, again, 11.5 feet tall. So it's not something you'd have in your living room necessarily, unless you have a big living room. So my favorite part of my practice at the moment is the teaching part. So I teach private workshops here at the studios. I was doing them online for a while, but obviously the old COVID slapped that back a step or two. But I've also been doing work with schools, which I find really enjoyable because you learn so much, and they're the best critics in the world because, you know, it's coming from a good place. So we do these projects where each kid makes a tree, they bring it home, and then they all make various components of a tree, which I then knit together into one big tree, and that gets left at the school. So the kids leave their mark by having a tree remain behind them. It's called the legacy tree. So that's, I think there's a lot more of those projects coming up in the future. I just heard the other day. Yeah, I've run a non-profit called Art and Mind, which promotes mental well-being through creative practice. The website's up there. That's my website, and that says thank you. So that means it's over. I'd just like to thank Simon and Fiona. Thanks a million for your help today, and to the Irish American Business Networks, Crafters of Ireland, Joe, John, and to Bernie. Thank you all very much.